a dangerous weapon. I am the sharpest of blades. I'll cut you down in a second. Cause I was born in this pain. It only hurts if you let it. So if you think you can take me, then you should go and forget it. And after all this time, you're back for more. I won't stop until they know my name. So I'll take what's mine and start this war. I'm coming at you like a tidal wave. When everything you know has come and gone. Scars remain of the war. There's no one left to carry I can't resist, but that's what it takes to be radioactive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to For the Gamers, a podcast for all the scholars out there. My name's Lee Kintobor, and with me this week I have... Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name's Brandon Prower.
Brandon Prower. A strong name.
A strong name.
Now, Brandon, I brought you here today because you're in a bit of predicament, and I feel like just us really hashing it out could maybe solve some things. Why don't you let the audience know what's going on?
Okay, so like you said, it's a bit of a predicament. I'm not exactly sure what to do. You see, I am a grad student at grad school university. And one thing that has followed me my entire career as a student is that I really just want to make a splash on the world of academia, you know? I don't want to show up and do what everybody else does and then leaves, right?
Right.
So my degree is in literature.
Okay.
My whole academic pursuit revolves around the idea of looking at a text, which can be anything, a movie, a book, Supreme Court case.
Is that normal for a literature degree?
What is a Supreme Court case?
Being able to analyze anything that's not books. Okay.
Yeah, anything.
Cool.
Anything that is being examined is called a text.
Got it.
And what I really notice is that, you know, we have all these things which are called critical lenses, which is part of a bigger umbrella called critical theory. And it's different ways of seeing the world or seeing a text. Like, for example, there's feminist theory, which, you know, you're familiar with feminism outside of this context, right?
Yeah.
But within this context, feminist theory is a way of looking at a text that, you know, looks at the dichotomy between, it just basically looks at gender. And usually the more binary gender that is kind of traditional, like the idea of male oppression of a female.
The patriarchy.
The patriarchy, basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are other subsets of it that explore, you know, other facets of gender that are a bit more updated. But for that, we also have queer theory. So, you know, it's kind of a mishmash. We also have Marxist theory, which, you know, looks at, you know, criticism of capitalism. We have postmodernism theory, which does all sorts of things. So we have all these different lenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something's missing.
Like there's a whole other lens that hasn't been explored?
Exactly. Here is my goal. My goal for my thesis, my senior thesis, is not just to examine a text using one of these pre-made, you know, theoretical lenses, but to create my own theoretical lens.
Wow, that seems pretty ambitious.
It is.
Like, what are you basing it off of?
Well, okay, so this is where it gets a bit tricky. I have a professor, we all just call them Percival, and I've taken their classes many times, all the way through my undergrad, all the way to my graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I've written pretty much all my papers about is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Like the video game character.
The video game's character, Sonic the Hedgehog, in all his games. I love Sonic the Hedgehog. Not only do I love Sonic the Hedgehog, I think Sonic the Hedgehog is infinitely interesting and analytical in the way that it is presented. It has all these juicy messages, you know, just within the code, the matrix code that makes up its being.
Uh-huh.
Sonic doesn't exist, technically. But spiritually, Sonic is everything. So here's my predicament. At the beginning of this year, I told my professor, Percival, that I was going to create a new analytical theory called Sonic theory.
Oh, okay. Now I don't want to dunk on your ideas or anything. I've played a couple Sonic games before.
Who hasn't?
I play
Who
games sometimes.
Fucking literally, who hasn't?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a pretty popular series. I just maybe have found what's there to not be that involved, just kind of like dressing for you to go.
Well,
back.
let me stop you there, because that's just a surface reading. You haven't really made the effort to go under, right?
Yeah, I can't say I have.
You got to take a deep dive. But here's what I'm looking at, right? It's one thing to say we're going to look at Sonic and we're going to tear it apart, through these different lenses, and we're going to, find meaning within the text. That's normal stuff, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about right now. But no. I am creating a whole new way of viewing the world through Sonic. And so I have thought of a couple different names for it. The Sonic theory, it's chili dog studies, gotta go fast.
Right.
There's so many juicy themes in Sonic that I think are somewhere in there is a way to view the world. And, this seems all well and good, but here's where my problem is.
Yeah.
My thesis defense is in 2 weeks. And I got nothing.
You got nothing.
I truly am stumped.
Okay. Well, I guess the best we can do is just kind of hash out what we can here.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. It's hard for me to kind of conceptualize the magnitude of what you're trying to do here. So just to clarify, you're not trying to analyze what's happening in Sonic.
No.
You're trying to use what has happened in Sonic or how Sonic functions and use that to analyze other things.
Exactly. Everything, potentially.
Okay, so is this mostly narrative, the narrative of Sonic that you think can be applied? Is it like what you're doing in Sonic that applies to everything?
Well, that's a good question. I think where we need to start is we need to boil Sonic down to its most basic components.
Okay.
So, who is Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic is a hedgehog. I've kind of guessed that.
And there's one thing, actually. Sonic
Really?
the Hedgehog, there's no ambiguity in that. There is a sense of omnipresence in Sonic the Hedgehog in his full name is his full statement of identity. Sonic, which also points to the fact that he goes fast, the Hedgehog. He is a hedgehog. He is a hedgehog that goes fast. That is also his name. His name is performative.
There's something about the names in general with Sonic, right? Knuckles Echidna. An echidna with the name Echidna.
Okay.
Rouge the Bat has bat-like features.
And is like a roguish figure. And Rouge is like French of
right.
like a Frenchy version of rogue, and also like the romantic connotations of French language,
Sure, yeah.
Is like, the sexual undertones of that character.
There are definitely exceptions to this though. I believe Amy is a hedgehog. I don't know if Amy is generally referred to as Amy the Hedgehog.
That's a good point.
Miles per hour or Tails. Tails is like a fox, I think. Fox doesn't seem to appear in the name. So,
but he does have tails that allows him to fly.
So yeah, they do tend to have names that describe the characteristics.
Except for Amy. Although that's not true, because Amy's main character trait is that she's in love with Sonic, right?
Sure.
Amy is from the Latin root, like basically amoris, which is, I don't know if that's the original, but like, am
right
is a Latin root. It's, amore or amor, love.
Okay. I think this is an interesting observation. Do we have anything to build a critical theory off of?
So I'm just going to stick a pin in this with this thought, and then we're going to move on, I think.
Yeah.
So here's a possible idea. Already when I brought up Sonic in the beginning, there was this idea that you pushed, which is the idea that there's nothing on the surface. Everything, the text of Sonic, there is no subtext. All text is surface text. And we were just talking about how names are very apparent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is something to this idea that at the heart of Sonic is the idea that subtext does not exist, that all things are apparent, and that things that require strapulation are in fact false or foolhardy or unproductive, which would be paradoxical to us looking further into Sonic, or it could present a challenge.
So do you think that's like a valid way, though, to look at the world? Assuming everything is face value?
Well, I think the question isn't whether it's value. The question is whether or not you can use it to extract a meaning from a text.
Is there any meaning to be extracted from text if everything is literal?
Well, yeah, because I think that if in some texts we only engage as in subtext. The other day I was talking to my friends about Avatar, right? The James Cameron flick.
Oh, that Avatar.
Yeah,
I was definitely thinking of the last.
No. That's like the good thing called Avatar.
Okay.
This thing is, mostly when people talk about Avatar now, they talk about it in its subtext. But would it not be an interesting exercise to look at Avatar and look only at the things that objectively happen within the film and then derive meaning from only what is found on the surface, where you are not allowed to extrapolate? That's the word. I used extrapolate earlier, but extrapolate on the events that happen. So I think you would inevitably arrive at a different meaning if you were not allowed to pull apart its themes. So it is basically anti-intellectualism intellectualized.
Okay. So just to be clear, you're proposing that when you use sonic theories to analyze a text, you're just looking at what happens
Yes.
in a text, but isn't looking at what happens in a text and then deriving meaning from that, isn't that finding the subtext?
Perhaps. Okay, so I think let's put a pin in this one. Let's move on to another one.
Okay.
So take two. What is Sonic really?
Yeah, the existence of Sonic is just kind of a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so let's maybe look at it in through terms of what does Sonic and other Sonic characters, what do they do?
I was an avid fan of Sonic Adventure Battle 2 as a kid.
Naturally.
And for the light side and the dark side, there were characters that played the role of just running really fast, kind of piloting mechs, and treasure hunting. Were kind of the three general facets that roles that a character could play. Okay,
so this is interesting. So are you saying that this might actually have a sort of this sort of splitting the roles of these characters into three different kinds could be adapted to look at the rest of the world? That maybe we all do fit into those three categories.
Perhaps.
What's because I know 2 is a binary. What's 3 called?
Trinary.
A trinary of human experience, of all existence.
Mm-hmm.
Going fast,
piloting
mechs, and
finding treasure. Now, and I think we can also analyze the characters that assume these roles. So going fast.
I see. We're doing it again. We're analyzing the text of Sonic.
But in this situation, I think looking at what the characters do can help us define what these three roles are.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So like Sonic and Shadow, seemingly on the surface, I would guess fairly different.
It's got to go fast, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what they have. They do kind of have some sort of rivalry. They have similar physical characteristics.
But you also have like the big water guy, Chaos.
Yeah. Chaos something.
Yeah.
For sure.
But he also goes fast. And no, it's Metasonic.
Metal
Sonic. That's what I'm thinking of.
Right. There are games where Metal Sonic goes fast.
But he goes fast in that game.
And Silver the Hedgehog exists in some games where I believe.
No, but we're explicitly talking about, Sonic Adventure Battle 2.
Well,
and the characters that go fast.
Metal Sonic really only exists in the context of like multiplayer mode.
But is that not a part of Sonic?
That's valid.
Are you only containing Sonic to the story mode? Because
I think in the story mode, the chaos, like water elemental thing never went fast.
Exactly. I got that wrong. Wasn't it a treasure hunter?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a whole other thing. I was mistaken.
Yeah, it was.
I spent my whole life studying Sonic, and I still fuck things up. This is how rich the text is.
Yeah, that's okay. There's a lot to analyze.
Mm-hmm.
We all make mistakes. So
okay, so what is this going fast? So basically, I think one of the things that's really interesting about the segments of going fast is that how much control is relinquished.
mm-hmm.
There are many times points at which you do not have control over your character or their exact trajectory. Is that not true?
No, you're right. When sometimes when you're going around loops and stuff, and like when you're moving from one like kind of section of the level to another, it does relinquish some control sometimes.
Okay, so maybe it's less about relinquishing control and more of like maybe a predictability or a one-mindedness of going fast. Maybe there's a subset of people in the world who have to go fast. Maybe what you would call a type A personality.
Fair. I think in that vein, usually what they're doing when they're going fast is trying to get somewhere quick so that they can stop something or running away from something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're trying to get through something as quick as possible to get to something else, or running away from problems maybe.
And then within the mechanics of the game, you are punished for stopping to appreciate anything.
That's true.
Only thing it is explicitly goal oriented. What you said, it's either going somewhere or getting away from something. What do those two things have in common? The only thing that matters within that is the end goal. Did you get away from the truck? Did you reach the big ring at the end?
And it does measure the quality of how you did it. There's ranking at the
There's ranking, exactly. So it's about this idea of obsessive goal obsession, right?
Sure.
Of one goal.
Now, I think the problem with that is you could say the same thing about the mechs and the treasure hunters.
I guess so. Because so maybe in order to see the whole picture, we do need to dive into the rest of them. So
yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one: treasure hunting.
Okay, this is assumed by Knuckles and Rouge the Bat in the game.
Mm-hmm. Now we talk a lot about when we're talking about video games. We talk about mechanics, we talk about characters, but we don't often talk about how music adds to the text. So here's my proposal. There's a level in Sonic Adventure Battle 2 where you play as Knuckles.
Yeah.
And you're in a land where there are lots of pumpkins.
Oh.
Pumpkin Hill.
Yes, Pumpkin Hill.
So let's listen to this song together.
Okay.
You know me, the fighting freak Knuckles, and we're at Pumpkin Hill. You ready? I ain't gonna let it get to me. I'm just gonna creep down in Pumpkin Hill. I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here. I can sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel.
That's really interesting. The great emerald's power allows me to feel. Maybe we're getting into...
No, I think that's interesting. We should at least come back to that one.
Okay.
I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my head, cause I have no fear. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. Our ghosts try to approach me and got leery. Ask him a question and he vanished in a second. I'm walking through valleys, crying pumpkins in the alley. Didn't seem happy, but they sure tried to get me. Had to back him up with a fist metal crackle. I'm hearing someone saying, you a chicken, don't be scared. It had to be the wind, cause nobody wasn't there. I searched and I searched as
now,
I climbed up the...
Is this insinuating that Knuckles punched a ghost?
I think it is.
Had to back him up with the fist, metal crack him. I'm looking at the lyrics here.
Right.
Knuckles was being attacked by a ghost, I believe, and he had to lash back with his fist. And someone else, I don't know if we got there yet. Let's keep going.
Okay.
And then I started to fly, I went in deeper. Let it get to me, I'm just gonna creep down Pumpkin Hill, I got to find my lost piece. I know that it's here, I sense it in my feet. The great emerald's power allows me to feel.
See, there it is again. The great emerald's power allows me to feel.
That's really interesting. I think that must play into some sort of like obsession, right?
Yeah, I guess it kind of comes back to what we're talking about, which is obsession. And maybe obsession is the true through line that we're finding here.
Like between all the roles, or for
between
treasure?
all of them.
Okay.
Between all of them and Sonic as a whole, we may have stumbled across something. Maybe Sonic is at its core about obsession?
You could say everything is, right? Theoretically, if we were trying to apply that as a lens, that everything is motivated by obsession with something.
Yeah, that could work. Like the obsession to go fast, the obsession to get away, the obsession with chili dogs, the obsession with Sonic,
Right.
the obsession with the Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah. That's a good thing that we might come back to later, is the culture around Sonic.
Right, because
And-
around Sonic, the fandom is sort of this idea of an obsession of a character that we can't let die.
Mm-hmm.
It must continue.
Right. I think we can maybe come back to that one.
Okay. Now, actually,
Unless we need to go there.
no, actually, I don't know if we even need to touch on the mech thing, right?
Yeah, if you feel that way. If we found something else, then I guess that's...
Well, I do think that it might be important to also bring up one of the major through lines of Sonic, which is the Chaos Emeralds.
Yes, the Chaos Emeralds. They appear to be some sort of diamond-looking object.
Well, they're emeralds.
Excuse me, that was an error on my part, and I apologize. Emerald-looking object that just holds power. Do they have any function on their own, do you know?
Yes, it seems like they are pretty much in my previous work I talked about how the Chaos Emeralds are pretty much just a stand-in for power. But this idea of chaos, I don't, it's been really hard to parse what they mean by Chaos Emerald. In the past, I have put forth the idea that Sonic believes that all power is chaos.
All power is chaos.
All true power is chaos. And that authority is inherently weak and unstable.
Sonic does assume the control of the Chaos Emeralds, right?
That is true.
In various games.
So maybe it is, and that's true. So only the possession of the Chaos Emeralds is what gives you power, because they don't do anything on their own, right? Except for the Chaos Emeralds that make Knuckles Island float. But again, that's the wielding of the Chaos Emerald. So it is the act of subjugating a Chaos Emerald which gives you power. So maybe what gives you power is the subtraction of chaos, the taming of chaos.
I think that's interesting. We talked earlier about running away from something and getting towards something fairly chaotically, right?
Right.
In a chaotic manner, I should say. There's lots of chaos happening in a lot of Sonic games. It moves very fast.
Right.
There's a lot of moving parts. But the goal is to contain it.
Right. So maybe we could view Sonic at the core of it as a struggle between order and chaos.
What would the order be in relation to Sonic? Just like controlling?
Order is control. Chaos, control.
Yeah, you're totally right.
I think we have something here.
In pretty much every game, Eggman, the villain of the game, is also trying to assume control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this necessarily disproves anything.
See, actually, I think this strengthens the point.
Right.
Because good and evil are irrelevant. All what matters is control and chaos.
Control and chaos. The minification of chaos by assuming control.
By assuming control, yes.
Okay. And what was it that we were thinking about earlier? Obsession.
Obsession, yeah.
Do you think that still plays a role in this dichotomy of control and chaos?
Maybe. I think obsession is a little bit more of a reading into Sonic. I think that control and chaos is a better lens. So I think that maybe this is the chaos control theory.
The chaos control theory. That's got a nice ring to it.
Actually, it reminds me of something. This actually has a lot of this theory actually has the potential to be extremely political, given the nature of chaos and control. And what I mean by that is let me show you. This is actually a news clip of something that happened during Mr. Obama's presidency.
Now, before we conclude, Mr. President, we have one more question from Twitter. It asks, there are concerns over the safety of America's cities ever since the space colony's attack on the moon. The tweet continues, what do you have to say about the theft of dangerous artifacts that could cause attacks like this to happen again?
You mean the Chaos Emeralds? I'm going to assume you mean the Chaos Emeralds, because if that's what you're concerned about, I've got one of them right here.
Chaos Emeralds! Mr. President, put your hands up and turn around slowly.
Chaos Control!
Oh my God!
See, I think there's a lot there.
Now, hearing that maybe makes me think that having control over the Chaos Emeralds doesn't minimize control for everybody. Maybe
But only for the user.
it does. Yeah, that's what it's doing for the user. But when President Obama assumedly
Controls the chaos.
People started screaming. It was chaos in the room in which he controlled the chaos.
I think this is a good point, because I think in order for this to be a successful theory, we have to determine, well, no, not exactly, because, an anti-feminist could use feminist theory to critique a piece, right? They don't even have to believe feminism is a good thing. It's just this dichotomy, right?
Fair.
So I think we don't even have to come to a conclusion of whether or not chaos or control is really the goal, right? It's not about the goal, but it's about the dichotomy, and about how one, control, always seeks the other, chaos. So we could actually take this factual, actually happened news clip and use it as our text.
Yeah, factual.
To analyze with chaos control theory.
Do you think maybe we should put this to the test?
Sure.
An example of something. Popular story. What do you think?
How about
Super Mario.
Super Mario Brothers?
There's chaos in the Mushroom Kingdom. Maybe currently Bowser has control. He has the princess.
Mm-hmm.
He's sending goons over the whole kingdom.
Sure.
And what Mario's trying to do is reassume the control that Princess Peach had, or maybe that Mario wants to have.
So Mario is performing chaos control, because his whole thing is to, resubjugate the land. So I think that this idea is that we have to boil it down even more. It's like this idea that chaos is always sought after by control obsessively and inevitably. And inevitably, that chaos must escape the lock that control has on it. Otherwise, there'd be no meaning in chaos control if chaos could forever be controlled. It is the moment, that one moment of controlling chaos, that immense power is generated, right? So history can be seen as a series of bright flashing points at those moments that chaos was controlled. I think that this matches the kidnap saving cycle of Mario very well. You know what I mean? Saving Peach, it almost seems that she gets captured so much that her being kidnapped is the chaotic state.
Mm-hmm.
Her being rescued is the chaos control. It is the moment of shining.
Now, let me propose a counterpoint.
Sure.
One might argue that at the beginning of most Mario games, there is relatively low chaos. And what Bowser's trying to do is take control of something that is normal, using chaos.
Okay.
And so Bowser uses chaos to take control of something, exert power over the kingdom.
Well, I think that's a really good point. But what we're failing to look at here is that one of the most important parts of chaos control theory is that good and evil are moot. They're nothing, because chaos control theory is flexible, and you can look at chaos control no matter whose eyes you're looking for. Because for Mario, the chaotic state is Peach being kidnapped, right? So then you must chaos control in order to become supersonic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for Bowser, the status quo of her not being kidnapped is chaos for him.
So we have to stop thinking
in terms of right and wrong, and thinking of power in terms of chaos and control.
Do you think the term chaos is still relevant? Because maybe the kingdom running the way it is the state of control for chaos for Bowser.
Right.
But in the literal sense of what chaos means, which is things that are out of order, out of control, the kingdom is Bowser's goal, but is it chaos? If it's Bowser's chaos, is it still chaos?
I think for our purposes in this theory, we can define chaos as the future being uncertain. Chaos is the state of being in which a future is not secured. Okay. Thus the control, because remember, in this dichotomy, chaos is the opposite of control. Control specifically being, so maybe chaos is we use it for our purposes here, but it doesn't always mean exactly the conventional definition of chaos. It's a little bit more of whether or not your future is secured and your interests are represented or not.
Yeah, I think that makes a fair amount of sense. Do you think that's the essence of what Sonic is still?
Chaos control.
Yeah, I guess it is a fairly similar relationship between Mario and Bowser and Sonic and Eggman.
And I think that the ultimate test of chaos control theory is whether or not we can use it to analyze a Sonic game as a text.
But you can hardly swallow your fears and pain when you can't help but follow and put you right back where you came. Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the words of yesterday.
Okay, what Sonic game do you propose we look at?
I think we should look at one of the most recent ones, Sonic Forces.
Sonic Forces. I think that if I remember right, I'm not sure if I totally played that one, but there's a lot going on there.
There is. I played it 3 times.
Okay, so let's go through what happens in the game,
All right.
and we can just kind of talk bit by bit.
So first we return to the status quo, I would say, conflict between Sonic and Eggman. He's doing his regular thing, but then this time Sonic loses. Mostly thanks to a new villain that is teamed up with Eggman called Infinite.
Now, Dr. Eggman usually trying to assemble the Chaos Emeralds.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this game, the MacGuffin's kind of like the Phantom Ruby.
That's correct.
Does Eggman already have it?
It would appear yes. And that's kind of how he's able to do this, right?
Okay.
And that's also related to, how Infinite works and all that stuff.
So, is Dr. Eggman trying to control a chaos or just simply wreaking havoc through tyranny?
No, again, like he is administering his control over what he considers chaos.
Fair.
Right. He is concerning his control, his chaos control.
Now, I don't want to unravel everything we've done here, but is this just that people have goals that they try to enact?
No, I think it's specifically, it's not just that people accomplish their goal, but rather that things come into eternal cycles that are inevitable and obsessive. Because guess what? By the end of the game, what happens?
Sonic wins.
Sonic wins. Whether it's control or chaos, it always reverts to what it was before. Control always tracks down chaos. Chaos always escapes control.
Now, we should keep going with this, but I'd be interested if this lens could be applied to stories in which maybe our protagonist loses.
Sure.
But what happens after Eggman's attacking a city, Sonic tries to stop him, Sonic fails.
Sonic fails. He is trapped in an egg.
I believe stuff happens. There's a group of bad guys that have controlled power, and a resistance starts forming.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Kind of headed by Knuckles the Echidna.
Knuckles the Echidna, and then all, your familiar characters, and then one custom character that you create.
Right. They nickname the Rookie.
Yeah.
I think there's, various plot points that happen, but kind of the long and short of it is that they do the uprising and stop the bad guys.
They do. Yeah, they do the uprising.
There are some moments where it's twisted around, like we think we've won, but we haven't. There's another plan, sort of thing.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things is that chaos is not easily controlled.
Chaos is controlled through trial.
Yes.
Okay.
And it escapes through trial. I think we can break it out into there is a moment of status quo, whether or not that be control or chaos for each respective character. Mm-hmm. And then there is a segment of struggle, but then there is a supersonic. there is what I call a shining moment when chaos has been controlled. The beginning, when everything's going right for Eggman. This story begins with Eggman's shining moment. He is, in this moment, Eggman has attained supersonic.
Bowser's shining moment is when he kidnaps Princess Peach.
Right, and he has maximum defenses set up against Mario. He is in his ideal moment.
Yeah, I buy that. Now, sometimes in the games, there isn't like literally a moment where Sonic does chaos control.
Right.
Or becomes supersonic.
Right.
But you're saying this is more of a metaphorical thing.
Yes.
When this character achieves.
When your ideal is achieved.
When your ideal is achieved. Chaos is controlled.
Chaos is controlled. And so in this point, it would be, the rookie. You take on the rookie, In this one, Sonic's name is being used to sell the game, but he's not the protagonist. The rookie's the protagonist. So it's the rookie Supersonic that we are going for.
There's usually this theory where we're applying stuff. There's a good guy, there's a bad guy, there's a protagonist, there's an antagonist.
Right.
Do you think side plots, side characters, side arcs, are these mini chaos controls? Are they in service of the main chaos control?
I guess so, but I think it's not as important to point those things out because again, it is a lens that we are putting on a text, right? It is to be able to analyze. If you were, say, doing a Marxist reading of Ukulele, you don't need to mention every part of the game, just the parts of the game that support your thesis in its what you would consider an anti-capitalist message if you were making a Marxist reading, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to account for every aspect of a text. We just have to analyze the text within a certain framework.
That's fair.
Which is the idea of, the infinite cycle of chaos control.
What about works that are standalone? This is one event that happens.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't multiple games where the same sort of thing happens. Do you think that still plays into this idea that chaos control is infinite? It'll always happen the same way.
Maybe. There could be a standalone a piece in which, maybe there are multiple instances of chaos control. But I don't know. That is an interesting question. It may be a limited lens.
Mm-hmm.
But, could you really say that any lens could be applied to any situation?
That's fair. You're saying that chaos control theory is useful when we're analyzing like something that's historical, like events that happen often.
Right.
Chaos control theory has its specific use, is what you're saying.
Sure. I think we've kind of come at something here.
Yeah.
I think I can defend this thesis.
All right. You just got to write up a paper now?
Yeah, I think I could. Are there any? Although, I've really enjoyed this. This dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
This discourse.
Is
there any further discussion we need? Do we need to go back to our original idea?
We could maybe analyze other parts of Sonic that are interesting. I think chaos control theory is our main one.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe looking at other things, we might find something that's
right
useful.
Okay. Okay. What was our original idea that we went at?
Obsession. We were like the trichotomy.
The trichotomy. Yeah, but what was before that? There was one more before that.
The first thing we looked at.
Oh, it was about subtext being non-existent.
Oh, you're right. What's the point of that?
I don't know. I do think that now that we have, I think it's an interesting exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's exactly has a lot of legs to stand on.
Unlike Sonic, who has very long legs.
He has 2 very long legs. Yeah.
Right.
Which sometimes are covered in bandages.
Right.
Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Can't stick around, have to keep moving on. Guess what lies ahead? Only one way to find out. Must keep on moving ahead. No time for guessing, follow my pen instead.
there anything to be discussed around the culture of Sonic?
We should talk about this. Maybe we can.
Can chaos control theory be used to analyze fan culture? Maybe consumer investment into IPs and things like that.
Very possibly. I do think that maybe we could look at this and, there's something that's been brought up called a Sonic cycle.
Sure. What can you explain what this is?
The Sonic cycle is a process in which, and usually this is made through the lens of people who are less, let's say, nice about the quality of Sonic games. But there's this idea that Sonic fans are, well, it's a cycle, so there's no beginning or end at this point. But Sonic fans are disappointed from the last game. A new announcement comes out, and everybody says, oh, we're going to be like, this game is going to be good. This one's going to be good. And there's an intense hype cycle. And then something right before it comes out, it starts to look bad. And then it comes out, and it's bad. And people are sad and disappointed. But then people start talking about, like, oh, what if the next one's good? And the trailer drops. And then, everything from there. So this is an infinite cycle, right? At least in this framework, which I think is very compatible with chaos control. But I do think where the interesting analysis comes in is what point in the cycle is the shining moment? And I think I know what it is.
What is it?
I think it's the anticipation after the trailer drops. I think the trailer is the shining moment.
Is Sega assuming controlling chaos in the moment? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, well, I think it's a unique one because it is a shining moment for both Sega and the fans. The fans get surprised and excited, and I think that, Sonic fans spend so much time. I mean, look at me. I have spent more time analyzing Sonic than I've even spent playing it. It is the activity and energy around Sonic that I would say motivates my obsession. And I would say most of it is the same for lots of other fans, whether they be, that they just love Sonic as a character, that they hate Nintendo, that they're furries, that they are really interested in the academic pursuit and of understanding Sonic at a conceptual level.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many reasons, and it's usually not the game. It is everything around the game, right? So what is truly a more appropriate shining moment than the moment of anticipation of the Sonic game, being able to engage in the hype, being able to be appreciative and forget about the games that screwed you in the past. That is the shining moment.
That's the moment the fans are going fast.
It is the
like
moment
they gotta do.
Yeah, it is when they go supersonic.
Now, I think it's interesting to bring up that when we've been applying chaos theory, chaos control theory to different works, it's generally been about opposing forces.
Sure.
Like the back and forth of chaos and control. But when we look at Sega and like consumers or fans, these aren't necessarily opposing. Would you say that they are?
No, I don't know if they are in this context. So I think the opposing figures, the good and evil, which is truly ambivalent, is the excitement of Sonic and the badness of Sonic. The quality of Sonic and the anticipation of Sonic.
Interesting.
Because I think that, so we have, the fandom and the people who make the game, their supersonic is the trailer. But guess what Sonic's badness shining moment is? The release of the game.
Interesting. So this chaos control like opposition that's happening, the back and forth, is characteristics that are created from two like sources.
Yes. Two forces which to control the chaos.
This is not necessarily based around two characters as much as it is two characteristics. Two ideals.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. The forces wishing to control the chaos can be anything.
Interesting. And like in the stories that we were talking about are often embodied.
Yeah. And the control of the chaos is passed inevitably between two or more different forces.
Two or more.
Maybe, possibly. We don't know. We'd have to do more analyses. And I think that part of what makes it so chaotic is that the state of not having your future determined is always fluctuating from person to person. And in that way, their future is always determined. Chaos is always controlled in some ways. But that's also what makes it chaos.
Is it also always inevitably lost?
Yes. Always. The chaos control doesn't last for long. The shining moment, the supersonic, always has a timer.
You're so right. Can't be supersonic forever.
No, you can't. Well, heck. Heck and darn.
Heck. Brandon, can I just say, well, heck.
You can.
Just darn it.
Just darn it and heckin'.
Just heckin' darn it. We've really done it.
I really appreciate you helping me out with this. Truly.
I think what we've done here is truly exciting, and I'm so glad you let me talk to you today.
Me too. I'm crying tears of joy. I'm bawling.
Yeah, I can see that because we're looking at each other in real life.
I have huge teardrops like the ones in Spirited Away that Chihiro cries, just like blobbing down my face.
They're so big in that movie.
Yeah, oh God, I'm sorry. I'm drowning your living room.
Oh, see, that's really a bummer.
Oh, I'll save the GameCube.
That's important. Sonic Adventure Battle 2's on there.
I got it. All right. I should get out of here before my giant Chihiro tears destroy your house.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Brandon. I think we've got a special one here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been For the Gamers. We have an email that you can always email questions at. Sorry we didn't end up getting to questions this week. I think this was kind of like a singular kind of idea that we had to tackle.
Impromptu sort of moment.
Right.
You can send us questions at our email account, which is ftgpod@gmail.com.
Yes, that is correct. You can also contact me personally at Iced Creams on Twitter. That's ICED Creams. Where can we reach you?
You can reach me on Twitter at Gumball Genesis.
And I think that's everything. Again, one more time, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much,
I hope
Lee.
this conversation that we had was helpful.
I have to start writing my dissertation like right now. I've been typing as we've been speaking.
Wow, that's kind of rude, but thank you so much for doing that. To all you scholars out there listening, thank you. You're the real stars. You're the real future of our society. Praise Jesus.
Praise the Lord.
God bless America.
Praise Him.
And we'll see you next week.
Mission accomplished.
I can't resist, but that's what it takes to be infinite. So look around you and tell me what you really see. I never been, and that's the difference in you and me. 'Cause when your time is up and everything is falling down, it's only me and you who is gonna save you now. So look around you and tell me what you really see. You live a lie and that's the difference in you and me. I have the power, let me show you what it's all about. It's only me and you who is gonna save you now.
All right, I've started recording.
Okay. My name is Lee. Gotta go fast. Hedgehog. Maybe I should be Lee Prower.
Fuck you.
Okay.
Ugh. Sorry.
Yikes.
Dr. Eggman attacks a city and Sonic sets out to stop him. However, upon arriving... That's right. Sonic fucking dies. I forgot about Infinite. Oh, God. So look around you and tell me what you really see. You live a lie, and that's the difference between you and me.
You know who has legs but often doesn't use them? Both Tails and Dr. Eggman.
Mm-hmm.
Both people who assume mechs in Sonic Adventure Battle 2. Now, Tails isn't shown as the bad guy. Dr. Eggman is. Dr. Eggman doesn't have as able as a body as Sonic the Hedgehog does, often employing other people and things that do have able bodies. Dr. Eggman uses mechs and things as a form of his own embodiment. This is nothing, I think.
Who is gonna save you now? So look around you and tell me what you really see. You live a lie, and that's the difference between you and me.
Praise Jesus.